What's going on? Welcome in. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. There's no hard and fast transfer news, though that'll come up organically throughout this video. What we're going to do today is a little trick in the business they call power rankings. And I'm going to do it by tiers because I don't believe in hard and fast power rankings, but that's fine. You can argue with me in the comments. Feel free. This is a bit of a silly exercise because preseason is just starting for most teams. The balls are just being rolled out. There's a lot of time left in the offseason for teams to make signings, but as we're getting to preseason starting, let's do some preseason power rankings. It's really just an exercise for me to kind of helicopter around all 29 teams and give a couple thoughts and go in whatever direction. We'll try to keep this as quick as we can here so it's not too long, but, I ramble. The first tier is reserved for one team, number 29. We're on our second interim coach. Our GM isn't here, and neither is our best player. Number 29, Minnesota United. Emmanuel Reynoso has not showed up on time again. The sporting director that they hired a couple months ago isn't here yet. The new date for him to come is next week. They're on their second interim head coach. All that adds up to the outlook isn't so great. The best case scenario for this team that has Emmanuel Reynoso and a new head coach with a plan and a GM who's actually has his feet in the ground in Minnesota is fine. Again, Reynoso is one of the most talented players in the league. He, in and of himself, is an attack. Teemu Pukki finally looks like he solved their problem at center forward. Robin Lod is back from injury. He's one of the most underrated players in the league. They've got a lot of good pieces. But their best player isn't here. They're on their second interim head coach before the season starts. And their general manager isn't here. They're dead last right now going into preseason power ranking. Sorry, it is what it is. Somebody has to be last. Next tier, 28 to 25. That's a lot of rebuilding. 28 Chicago Fire, 27 Austin FC, 26 Toronto FC, 25 DC United. Starting with all these teams, there's some top-end talent, a little bit. There's flaws with all of them, obviously. All four teams missed the playoffs last year. All four teams came into the offseason with big questions, and all four teams are rebuilding. Chicago Fire haven't done enough by way of outgoings yet. Jairo Torres is on the preseason roster. Castro Shabelko is. Dean Suke, or not Suke, sorry. And you kind of go down the line. There's a lot of players that they want to get rid of and that they haven't gotten rid of yet. They still haven't. They've been working on trying to sign Kellen Acosta. That hasn't happened yet. They've been working on trying to sign a DP center forward. That hasn't happened yet. They signed a center back, and that's it. There's still a lot to go, and worse for Chicago than even the other three teams in this grouping. They've got a lot of outgoings to go, and that's proving much more tricky than it should be. Austin, Toronto, and DC. Austin started their rebuild in the summer. So did Toronto. Austin traded away Diego Fagundes. They've gotten rid of a bunch of players this offseason. Toronto FC as well. They've begun looking to the future. None of these teams are going to be a quick rebuild. Austin at least still has Sebastian Driussi. Toronto, in theory, could have one or both of Insigne and Bernadeschi. John Herdman came in as coach. We'll see what magic he can kind of work. I think that there's a scenario in which some of these offseason rebuilds turn around quicker than we are expecting. But I think that it'd be unfair to expect some of these to turn around. Like the problem that Toronto and DC United in particular have had in recent years, in Chicago, I guess, is that they've tried to do quick fixes. Hey, Insigne, Bernadeschi, we can turn it around immediately. Bob Bradley, oh, crap, we need a left back. Let's go overpay. Raul Petretta, oh, there's this, there's that. Just too many quick fixes, and all these teams need a couple windows to really reset the cap, reset the roster, and put in building blocks. DC United has a few building blocks in Christian Benteke and Matheus Klick. Now Aaron Herrera has joined that, but Ali Mackay, new GM, came in and has gotten rid of 13 players already. I'm assuming he's going to continue that. There's a DP spot open. There's some hope. There's some talent on this team. Troy Lezane coming in as a head coach. But again, year one is more about building the foundation and getting building blocks than anything else. Next year, 24 to 20. Do they have enough top-end talent? 24 NYCFC, 23 FC Dallas, 22 CF Montreal, 21 Charlotte FC, and 20 San Jose Earthquakes. NYCFC, it's weird. Usually top-end talent isn't the worry for this team. They just signed Hans Wolf, and look, that's very intriguing. That could end up being a really good signing. Julian Fernandez looked really good in his limited minutes last year, but again, he's a 19-year-old player or whatever. Santi Rodriguez, I remain a very big fan of, but if he's your best player, you might be struggling a little bit. I don't know. There's a lot to like about this team, but there's a lot to like about this team last year, and they didn't look good. They have Andres Pereira now. He's back. They still need another center forward. Back Raw, again, he's fine, but is that the starting number 9 on a really good team? And again, the East is really, really good this year. That's going to hurt NYCFC. Again, I'm not putting it past them that they could be challenging. Again, every team should be challenging for the playoffs, right? You shouldn't be looking at it right now as a lost cause because 18 teams make the playoffs. The season's long. Things can change just even over a 5-game streak. Hell, Sporting Kansas City started the season with that 10 games without a win last year, and they made the playoffs and made a little bit of a run. So again, all these teams, even at the bottom, should have hope, and there are scenarios in which it can go well. But again, for NYCFC, I'm just not sure about the top end talent. And hey, maybe they sell Talis Magno. That hasn't worked out. I was wrong about that. I thought that was a really good signing. Hasn't quite gone to plan since Tati Castellanos left, really. So maybe they could use that young DP spot on him, on another player if he leaves. To be determined. Too many question marks. Too much kind of data pointing under Nick Cushing that this team wasn't very good over the last year and a half. We'll see what happens. I'm imagining he's got a short leash coming into 2024. Dallas, same thing. I really liked them coming into the season last year. And then they didn't sign a DP number 9. Jesus Ferreira took a step back. Paul Arriola took a step back. Sebastian Lletget took a step back. Center back never got resolved. And their game model just never put domination on the field. Like, they're in a lot of trouble with Velasco out for at least the first half of the season. Jesus Ferreira needs to rediscover his 2022 form rather than 2023. I still think they should just sign a DP center forward. But again, I thought that last year and it didn't happen, so I don't know if we should expect it. If a DP center forward comes in and Jesus Ferreira plays as a second forward, Alara Mendy and Paul McCool in the midfield, Arriola and Kamungo playing on the wings as kind of responsible outside midfielders, like, that's a team that has a really good structure. They still need another center back right now. We'll see kind of where they go with that. But again, if you told me a really good center back and a good DP center forward were coming in, they'd slide right up. But again, we thought a DP forward was coming in last year. Montreal, I really like the Laurent Courtois hire. But again, they don't have enough top-end talent at the moment. Like, there's reports that they're going to Argentina for DP number 9, which would be really, really good news for Montreal fans. They haven't really spent any discretionary money on DPs. I believe that Victor Wanyama came on a free transfer. I forget exactly what the number was, but that was pre-pandemic. That was Thierry Henry era. And he's barely over the max TAM threshold. Like, they just don't spend that much money on the top of their roster. And it is what it is. They spend more GAM than anything else. Charlotte FC, again, I like what they could do, but there's just too many question marks to move them too far up. They still need to get rid of Kamil Yuziak. I think Carlos Widerski is going to leave. They still need to replace him with somebody with a really good DP. Groenbeek would be that really good DP, but again, that's going to be a very difficult thing. That I haven't heard any updates on that front. We'll see. I think they'd have the money to make it happen, and I think it'd be a good fit for Groenbeek. But again, there's a lot of competition there. San Jose Earthquakes, Christian Espinoza is a really good player, but what else do they have around? Carlos Guerreiro is a really good player. It's kind of it in terms of high-end talent. Like, I think Jeremy Bobasi is a very good forward. I'm writing in The Athletic that I think that they should sign a DP winger to replace Cade Cowell, who is now officially with Chivas. And I think that would help a lot. But again, it comes down to what is the discretionary spend going to be with this team? Is the roster good enough if a high-end DP doesn't come in? I'm not sure that it is. But again, they have a lot of good building blocks. And I really don't hate where they're at. Just need to refuel with coffee here 1 second. Monologuing, man. Oof. Next grouping, 19 to 17. Intriguing with DP spots open. 19 LA Galaxy, 18 New York Red Bulls, 17 Portland Timbers. I think this, more than any other group, has the most upshot and the most upside to move forward. If not, I'm expecting them to move up. I'll start with 17 Portland. I really like what they've done so far. Maxime Crépeau, Kamal Miller, those are two huge additions to what this team really, really needed last year. So far, they've hung on to Evander, and that's going to remain the same unless that Flamengo or another Brazilian team comes in with a huge bid. But all intents and purposes, I'm told that he's happy and nothing's imminent. Again, it would take a huge bid for them to move on. But then, so they have their apex starter, their best player, their number 10, the guy who the attack runs around. They still have at least one more DP spot that they're going to fill. They could fill 2, I believe, but it's going to be another DP attacker, whether that's a goal-scoring winger or a center forward. We shall see. But this team has a lot of really good building blocks, a lot of top-end talent, and with Kamal Miller and Maxime Crépeau, the defense is the best it's been in a long time. So again, Portland Timbers, if they make the right DP signing, they're getting pushed way up into a couple tiers ahead of this that we'll get to soon. LA Galaxy, same thing. Like, Ricky Puig is one of the singularly best players in the league. Gabriel Peck is very expensive. I've heard differing things from scouts and agents about whether or not they think he's worth the $10.5 million. At that point, this doesn't really matter whether, Brenner wasn't worth $12 million or whatever since he paid for him. And that one worked out, right? Like, so as long as he's good enough and a difference maker as a DP, that'll be good enough for them. Again, if it costs an extra couple $1 million, like, it's not our money and it doesn't impact the salary cap. If they get Joseph Pansel over the line, which I haven't heard any new updates on that front, other than that the dialogue was still going, the talks were still ongoing, that would be, they would really slide into, like, I think the upper echelon in the Western Conference. And maybe I'm just wrong, because last year I thought the Galaxy were going to be one of the better teams in the West, and that was terribly wrong, terribly incorrect. So maybe it's just remnants of a bad take that I kind of can't get over. But if the Galaxy were to sign Joseph Pansel, again, one of the best players in the Belgian league, a goal-scoring winger, would be one of the most dynamic attackers, to have runners like that around Ricky Puig, it'd be phenomenal. And, like, I guess this depends on where you feel about how Gaston Brugman and Martin Caceres and Maya Yoshida and Jaylen Neal are all going to hold up for various different reasons, mostly age and injury concern. And then Jaylen Neal is a young center back. There's going to be growing pains. I still think he's a starter on this team. But if you think that core, that nucleus is going to hold up fine, the attack's going to score goals with these two new DPs. So, again, they're going to be, I think, one of the most fun teams to watch because it can go either way. But if they that last DP spot, if they hit, like, they're going to be one of the better teams in the West. New York Red Bulls, I don't know if they're going to use their final DP spot. But the team, I think, is going to be really competitive even without that. But if they went out and signed a DP number 9 to put next to Dante Van Zier and ahead of Emil Forsberg, again, I think Emil Forsberg is a really good signing, and Lewis Morgan in the attack, that's going to be the best attack that the Red Bulls have had since Sasha Klesha and Bradley Ray Phillips. Again, there's no guarantee that'll happen. There are a lot of bodies, a lot of options at forward next to Van Zier. Like, there's, Corey Burke hasn't really worked out, but Elias Manuel, who I know that they have hopes for. And then again, like, Sergin Goma, hopefully he'll be fit this year, whether he plays on the wing or up top. Like, that's another young player that they're looking to break into the first team a little bit more. I don't know. They have a lot of good options. And that defense was one of the better ones in the league last year. Again, Carlos Cornell kind of took a step back, but if he reverts to his 2022 form, like, this is a really well-rounded team. And again, if Forsberg is as good as I think he is, or think that he's going to be in MLS, because he is good, he doesn't need my stamp of approval. I think he's going to be good in MLS. If Van Zier has the second-year bounce back, which, again, like, you look at his profile, you look at his stats, the way he fits in teams, his preferred playing style, all of that points to him being a very good player in MLS. And he wasn't last year. There was injuries. There was a suspension for saying a racist remark towards Jeremy Bobasi or whatever the controversy was early in the season. That didn't help his settling in, and that nobody to blame but himself. But there were other factors as to why he didn't really get off the boat last year with the Red Bulls. Let's see what it looks like in 2024. Another tier of one right here. This is number 16, Evolve or Die, Nashville SC. This is another team that on my Google Docs, Google Sheets depth charts, it looks good. You have Hani Mukhtar, you have a DP center forward, Sam Surridge. They make a lot of sense together on in theory. Their wingers make a lot of sense with this team. The defense is one of the best in the leagues. They should score a lot of goals on set pieces. Going down the list, but second half of the season, they were straight up bad. Like, they weren't scoring many goals. Hani Mukhtar had 2 goals down the stretch. This was after their Leagues Cup run, after Sam Surridge joined the team. They looked really good in the Leagues Cup run. They looked really bad after that, after they lost in the finals to Inter Miami. Gary Smith is talking again about evolving the way the team plays. Evolving and being more attacking is probably what he means. I believe his last quote was something to the effect of, I'm not even going to talk about it. If I'm doing my job, you guys should be able to tell after a couple preseason games, which is, let's see what happens. Like, I don't know. I feel like we've heard this before from Gary Smith. And look, being really competitive and really good, like, he's still a good coach. He's done a lot of great things in Nashville. But they need to evolve one more step if they want to take the next step. And hell, like, Hani Mukhtar has talked about this. Feels like anytime he's asked over the past year, we need to be better with the ball. We need to defend less, right? Like, so let's see how that goes. Nashville could be one of the better teams in the league, or they could slip and play uninspiring soccer and be around the playoff bubble, which, again, there's too much talent in this team to be there. Into the top half, this tier from 15 to 10, I'm just going to call them the Western Conference toss-ups. 15 Sporting Kansas City, 14 Colorado Rapids, 13 Houston Dynamo, 12 St. Louis City, 11 Real Salt Lake, 10 Vancouver Whitecaps. These teams are a little bit difficult to separate right now, particularly in preseason. I love what Colorado's done. I keep saying it on these videos. Georgi Mihailovic, Zach Steffen, Omir Fernandez. They're going to sign another 6. Sam Vines coming in. That's really good. I'm trying to be careful to not hype them up too much or not get too carried away because they were last in the Western Conference last year. So I think it'd be unfair to move them ahead of some of these other teams in this group. But I believe that they're going to be somewhere with this bunch of these 6 teams. Sporting Kansas City, a lot of it depends on if Alan Polito stays fit and what they do with that third DP spot. Now that Gotti Kinda's gone, I hope that they bring in a creative midfielder. I think that is the best way to use Eric Tomey with another kind of player like Gotti Kinda or whatever, right? Like these two players can help the attack and impact the attack, and it takes away the creative burden all from Eric Tommy, but we'll see what they do. Houston Dynamo, big questions at center forward. Corey Baird's gone. Sebas Ferreira is back, and I don't think that they can add another, or don't think that they will be able to add another DP forward unless Sebastian Ferreira leaves. And January 16th, he's still here, and there's quotes coming out of Houston from Sebas, from Ben Olsen, I believe, from the front office of, we want to make it where, they're saying all the right things, and whether that's because they really believe it or because they feel like they have to, the same way that Caleb Porter's talking about Giacomo Veroni, of no, we love him, we can work with this. Like, we'll see if this is just lip service or if they really believe that Sebastian Ferreira can, live up to what at the time was a club record fee, or I think it's still a club record fee. Whatever. Point is, they have some questions, but again, that midfield is still the best in the league. It's still one of the best in the league. Sorry, Coco Carastilla is still here. There's 2 more weeks left in the January transfer window, so we shall see. But again, everybody really but Corey Baird is back from last season, and they were one of the best teams in the West last season. St. Louis City topped the Western Conference. They overperformed expected goals, all that nonsense, all the crap. They still have top-end players. They still have their system. They still have everything else. Like, I think that they're going to be very similar to last year, and whether or not that equates to the exact number of points they have, there's variance in this sport, in this game. Roman Berkey, again, I don't think it's fair to expect any player to be literally the best at their position and save all the goals that he did, just his advanced metrics. So that's a way that they get slipped back. But they have a lot of different goal scorers. They have a lot of, now that they shored up central midfield a little bit more with the Chris Durkin signing, a couple fullbacks. St. Louis are looking to be better than last year, but I don't know if they'll have the same point total, just because I think that they did outperform some of their advanced metrics, and that's not a bad thing. It's just to say that if they finish 4th in the West, that doesn't mean this year is an abject failure. Need to put all this in perspective. 11 and 10, Real Salt Lake and the Vancouver Whitecaps. Salt Lake have some work to do. They need to bring in an attacking DP. But again, around Chicho Rango, the midfield with Ruiz, with Ojeda, the backline, there's a lot of really good players here. Diego Luna, we all love. We think that he's going to take another step forward this year. That remains to be seen. Again, Andres Gomez, I like a lot. They're another young winger. Fidel Barras, who just won USL Championship Young Player of the Season. He's the best kind of talent to come out of USL since Diego Luna. Took Diego Luna a little bit of time to really find his feet under Pablo Mastroeni and Real Salt Lake. But again, I think that there's a lot of talent here, and the right DP, like this team, can also jump up. The next tier, only 2 more left, 9-4. And I could have broken this up into 2, but I'm going to just do one big one here. Questions, but they could be outer ring contenders. 9 LAFC, 8 New England Revolution, 7 Philadelphia Union, 6 Atlanta United, 5 Orlando City, 4 Seattle Sounders. A little bit of a spoiler alert here. 2 of the top 9 are Western Conference teams. I mean, 7 of the top 9 in my power rankings here, my preseason power rankings, are Eastern Conference teams. 1 of the top 8 are Western Conference. There's a lot of talent in the East that we're going to get to. It's going to make it difficult for a lot of these teams. And like I was saying with NYCFC and Montreal, there's just too much talent in the East to expect to be challenging some of these other teams. But let's stick with this. LAFC, they have a lot of questions. Doesn't look like Kellen Acosta's coming back. Cheeky Palacio is already officially gone. Carlos Vela, still not back. Mario Gonzalez, there's been rumors about him going abroad. And there's just a bunch of other question marks in this team. That's several different starters. The good news, they still have Denny Bouanga, and unless that there's a bit of $15 million, I expect they'll keep him, but that's still a saga to watch. But if he stays, you still have Denny Bouanga, you still have Ilya Sanchez, Aaron Long, Bogusz, Ryan Hollingshead, and now Hugo Lloris in goal. That's a really good starting point. And LAFC have earned the benefit of the doubt in terms of having to fill holes and plug unexpected, roster turnover, because they've been doing it pretty much nonstop for the last 2 years and have made back-to-back MLS Cups and the Champions League final. They've won 1 MLS Cup. So, again, while there are holes and question marks, I think LAFC have earned the benefit of the doubt. New England Revolution, I'm going to pair them with Atlanta United here because I think that both of them have a really good starting 11 in theory, but there's still some questions. Again, New England, Giacomo Veroni has not been a DP level forward. If they can move on from him and then get a proper DP forward, Adam Buxa 2.0 or just Adam Buxa himself, this team would have one of the best attacks in the league. They still might, right? Carlos Hill, Thomas Chancalay, and Dylan Barrero as your 3-line in a 4-2-3-1 is elite. And that's going to make them really, really good. We'll see what this new goalkeeper looks like. They swung and missed on Tomas Vaclik. But the back line still has a lot of talent as well. This team is ready to compete. And Caleb Porter is a coach that has won 2 MLS Cups. They should be expected to compete. But we'll see where it goes. Atlanta United, their starting 11 looks awesome, particularly with Bartosz coming in, a new number 6. But Thiago Almada, Yorgos Giacomakis as the starting point in attack with Loba Janitze and Jean De Silva. If Gregerson is as good as, his profile seems to be, at center back coming in from Miles Robinson, Josh Cohen coming in as goalkeeper, challenging Brad Guzan for that starting spot. Caleb Wiley still here, Brooks Lennon still here, Tristan Muyumba getting a full season as well. Like, this starting 11 is so good. But if Thiago Almada gets sold in a week and the new DP number 10 isn't as good, that's a big issue. If there's a couple injuries, like, that's an issue. If Gregerson isn't as good as we think, or if Abram really isn't a starting caliber standing back, then, like, they're going to have to score a ton of goals to be competitive. But look, like, the foundation could be there, and, like, this team could be dangerous. Philadelphia Union also have questions. They also get the LAFC benefit of the doubt because they just have been the most consistent team in MLS over the past 6 seasons or whatever. Who knows what's going to happen to Julian Carranza this offseason. But they still have Daniel Gazdag, still have Jose Martinez, Andre Blake, Jacob Glesnes, Kai Wagner. That's 5 elite players. 5 elite players for their positions. And, like, that's half the starting 11. Like, there's questions up top. They need another forward, or Ty Baribo needs to come good. They need to re-sign Alejandro Bedoya. I'm still expecting it to happen. Hasn't happened yet. Jack McGlynn can still take another step forward. There's a lot of talent here. I get that they don't have their own Denny Bouanga, but they haven't for the last few years, and that doesn't matter as much in the regular season as it does the playoffs. And still, in competitions like that, they've gotten to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions League. They've gotten to the MLS Cup final. They've gotten to the conference semifinals last year. Like, Philadelphia Union still deserve benefit of the doubt. On to the top 5 here. Orlando 5, Seattle 4. Orlando City, I love what a lot of this group is. I think Nico Ladero is going to be a really good fit for them. Duncan McGuire, they need to time down to a new contract to make everybody happy, everything kosher, everything good. But the talent's all there. This is a win-now team. Oscar Pereira, he proved over the second half of last season to take another step with this group. I believe the front office is all going to be back. I don't think any of that's been announced yet, but I'm still assuming that. We'll see what Martino Ojeda does in year 2. We'll see what Facundo Torres does in year 3. Just signed a new contract, so there's no questions about his future right now. There's just a lot to like from this Orlando City team. Seattle Sounders, they're returning all 11 starters from the playoff run and looks very close to bringing in a $6 million Argentine youth international winger, Pedro de la Vega. There's nothing too new to say about this team. I guess there's questions about up top, but Jordan Morris is fine as a center forward. If Raul Rui Diaz can give you 2,000 minutes, 1,500 minutes of some semblance, 85% of what Raul Rui Diaz has been, then you can play Jordan Morris on the wing, and it gives you more options. This team is going to be really, really good. And again, the West is much weaker than the East, so that kind of will help them in getting towards the top of the conference and having home playoff games and just less competition. All right, last one, top tier, Apex contenders. Number 3, reigning Supporters Shield champions FC Cincinnati. Number 2, Lionel Messi's Inter Miami. And number 1, Columbus Crew. We got to give them the respect of being the reigning champions, returning the overwhelming majority of their core and adding to it. They have to be number 1 heading into preseason, despite all of the things that Miami might be this year. We'll start with Cincy. They lost Brandon Vasquez in a big transfer to Monterrey. It looks like they're going to lose Santiago Arias. Yerson Mosquera's not coming back, but they've already brought in Miles Robinson, and I think he'll be, Defender of the Year is difficult to vote for when you have a Matt Miazga and a Miles Robinson. They would split the votes, but on the face of it, that's 2 of the 5 or 6 best center backs in the league. That's going to be really difficult to break down. Obi Nwobodo is one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. Lucho Costa is a reigning MLS MVP. Aaron Bupenza has a ton of talent if he can just get out of his own way. We'll see what happens with this alleged sex tape and trial thing that's going on in Gabon. I don't know. Trial's not the right word, but just the controversy that's kind of making the rounds. But Bupenza's in Cincinnati right now. Let's see what happens. If everything's all good, then he's a really good center forward, really good DP level forward. Corey Baird, I think, fits well with this team so well. And then Alvaro Barrial's still here, though he's probably going to get transferred within the next month or year. So they'll need to have a backup plan at left wing back. We'll see. Cincinnati are going to be really, really good next year, despite some of these questions. Inter Miami, don't want to spend too much time here because I've already done a video about them. But again, the top line is Messi, Suarez, Busquets, Alba. Now, Gregory, Gressel, Campana, Yedlin, so many good. Sergei Kristov, Toto Alvarez, Drake Callender. Like, this is one of definitely the most talented starting 11 in the league. And again, there's arguments to be made. This is the most talented starting 11 in MLS history. We'll see kind of how that ages, if they can avoid injuries, if they can manage a squad with rotation and depth and everything else. Number 1, Columbus Crew. Again, the only player from the rotation last year that they've lost at this point is Julian Gressel, and he wasn't starting in the playoffs. Mo Farsi, there's interest from the United Arab Emirates, but still nothing there. Cucho Hernandez, one of the best players in the league. Diego Rossi, going to have a full season. He's a former Golden Boot winner in this league. Christian Ramirez should be their starting number 9. He's awesome. He's going to score a ton of goals in this team again. Nagbe, Morris, everybody else, like, they're bringing everybody back. They just won the title. Like, they get to be number 1 going into preseason. That's the rules. All right, that was the power rankings preseason power poll, whatever you want to call it, zooming around the league. I can't tell if this was super interesting, and you guys need to let me know in the comments here if you did indeed enjoy this. I know that people bounce around, which is good. I don't know what I'm going to do with graphics as I'm recording this. I'm going to make the graphics and crap after this, so you'll see them in the video hopefully, but let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. And again, if this is something that I should put 25 minutes into next time, or if you guys don't really care, then I get it. I'll move on. Maybe we'll try it a couple more times. This won't be every week. This will be every so often. I'll probably do one again right before the start of the season and then go from there. Again, depending on if you guys like it or if you guys say it sucks, then who cares, right? I'll stop doing it. Cheers.